You must be patient. We will begin in just a moment. God damn it, Jaffe. God damn it, Jaffe. You're muted, you son of a bitch. All right, here we go. Here's another crack. There you go. All right, the first song that came up. Sorry about that. I was muted, of course. The first song that came up was Xxx+More's, his album Cosmic Cruise. Great song. One of my favorites on that album is called Drive-In Theater. And you can find that album, his other albums, some of the music he wrote for Rob the Mod's video game Monarch is on there, all at the link tree below. That was Xxx+More's, for those that were wondering. Wonderful song. And then afterwards, that was from Nights into Dreams, the Sega game. But if you remember, they released a Christmas version, just at Christmas. It was like a demo disc. I don't remember how I got it. I got it when I was at Sony. I don't know if I had to pay for it, but they had thematically shifted the game, so it was all Christmassy. And then they had written just a wonderful soundtrack, which I listen to almost every Christmas, which is sort of a Sega Saturn era video game-esque Christmassy thing. So that was Nights into Dreams. Welcome to Gabbing and Games, everybody. Good to see everybody. Let's focus. It's been a really challenging last 20-30 minutes because I've been trying to get everything together, and I'm not quite centered yet. Let me center and we will begin the show. I know it looks stupid, but I'm centering. It's pre-show. Hello, fellas. All right, here's what's going on. I want to give you some heads up real quick. So starting today, we are going to talk video games as we always do today, but we're going to start pivoting towards the back of the show into some weirder topics. And over the next 2 weeks, not because any reason, just because there's not going to be a lot of game news coming out, we will still do Gabbin' and Games, of course, but we will and there's a Gabbin' and Games Christmas special coming up next week. But I'll also be doing a show. I think I'm going to call it right now I Love the Weird, but I'm not sure if that's true. It'll also live on this channel. So we'll start playing with a little bit of that content today at the end of the show. And then I'll probably do some full episodes next week because I'm going to start doing that show once a week or so here on this very channel. So, but a lot of it is sort of prompted by the fact that, you know, the next couple of weeks, you're not going to see a lot of video game news. So, okay. Let's talk about what's happening in the world today. And then I'm going to practice. By the way, I got some information. I'm going to practice with the Gabbin' and Games crew right after this stream. Maybe I will stream that live. This is coming up this Monday. I will give you some details. I got some new details today. Coming up this Monday. I got to figure that out. I always say I got to figure it out, and I never do. Coming up this Monday. Here we go. People like, Jeffy, are you okay? It's one of those days, man. I gotta focus. Fuck you, a cab. Coming up this Monday, 6 o'clock Pacific time. Gabbin' Games will be going head to head with some of the Last Stand Media crew in Call of Duty. I got some details today. It is the first team to reach 10 victories in the game. So we could end up playing 19 games. We could end up playing 10 games. It will be team deathmatch, kill confirmed, and domination are the 3 modes in the playlist. We'll just let it run random. I asked Dustin, Dustin, hey, can you get Colin to play? I'm sure a lot of people would like to see Colin Moriarty, who runs the shenanigans over there, play. And he says, well, you know, I could ask Colin, but I really genuinely want to win this competition. So I have a feeling we won't be seeing Colin on the battlefield, but that's okay. We're going to smoke him anyway. And if you want to watch us practice, I'll probably stream that later. So that's coming up in just a couple of days. Pot and Popcorn is happening. It's happening in the next 7 days. It was going to happen Saturday, but it's not going to happen Saturday now because I have a document for the game I'm working on with Poland that I have to get to them, and my sleep schedule's been off, and I don't want to commit to tomorrow. So, but we will do it before the holiday party coming up next week, which is probably going to be on a Thursday or might even be Christmas Eve. So I will keep you abreast of that. But I'm not pushing it off because I'm not interested. I'm pushing it off because I definitely need to be balancing my time if I can. I still haven't committed to the game yet, but I'm going to try to make the game and do the stream as often as I have been. So anyway, that's what's going on with that, just so you know. Okay. And it probably won't be Barbarian. It'll probably be something else. We're not entirely sure what it's going to be yet. Hey, there you go. Mutant Mo's been a member for 21 months. Thank you, buddy. He says, Merry Fistmas and a happy screw year. Speaking of pornography, we'll be talking later today in the show about the Pornhub just dropped their year in 2022. A little bit of it's game related in terms of which gamers or which console owners tend to watch the most porn. We'll get into all that a little bit later on. Nathan says, Last Stand Media logo is so awful. Love the colors, love the concept. I don't think that is the Last Stand Media logo. This is the Sacred Symbols logo. And then they have like Defining Duke and they have Knockback. They've got like 3 or 4 shows. I think they're going to be launching a new show that they're announcing in January. So he's going to have about 5 or 6 shows over on that channel. Kenneth, hey buddy, he says, glad to hear you're dipping your toes back into gaming. Well, I mean, as I've always said about that, Kenneth, if the situation is right, I'm interested. I mean, it's something I'm curious about. But you know, it's not a done deal yet. So in that, you know, right now the situation's been pretty good, but we'll see how it goes. I made the cardinal mistake of game design where I was like, you know, I've learned this lesson, but I never learn it so well that it's fully out of my system, which is the best game design starts with your core mechanics. It doesn't start with a concept. It doesn't start with a story, which is not to say that some people don't do it that way. And I've done it that way in the past, but it's excruciatingly difficult to figure out gameplay when you're trying to wrap it around a story. It's better to come up with your gameplay first and then wrap the story around that because it is a game after all. But we did kind of we started with a little bit of both, but it was a little bit more in the story category. And so now I'm spending the weekend trying to really think through how can we, through very compelling commercial gameplay, tell this story that we think is really, really cool. And so that's kind of, it's definitely occupying some brain cycles. So I did not work on the game Gas Station Simulator. I just begun consulting with that company. That game was already out. I started playing it. I loved it. My picture's in that game if you can find the Easter egg, but no, I did not. Would I ever consider a one-man indie game? No, I wouldn't. I don't really like the process of making games. I love the result of making games. I love the payoff when it comes to you put all the work in and then you see people playing and enjoying it, and it just makes you feel better than almost anything in the world. But the moment-to-moment, day-to-day making of the video games, I find excruciatingly dull, and it does not really play well with my ADD. So that's a big 10-4. I don't really know what that means. I guess that means I'm acknowledging you, but I don't know. Here, let's turn down the lights a little bit. Let's get sexy and romantic. Okay. All right. Let's talk about video game news as it stands today, shall we? I want to talk about this with you guys. Horizon multiplayer game confirmed by Guerrilla Software. Now, you know, when I heard that Horizon was getting into multiplayer, I loved, not Horizon, but Guerrilla getting into multiplayer. I was like excited. I was really excited when I heard that they had brought over the director at the time for what's called Rainbow Six Siege. They poached him from Ubisoft. They brought him over to Guerrilla to lead up, at least at the director level, this new multiplayer game. And I don't know if this is that game, but I hope it's not. I have two things. I have two thoughts on this. One is I hope it's not, because I really think that whether you're talking Twisted Metal, whether you're talking Forza, it's like, okay, let them do the fucking Last of Us Factions, whatever it ends up being called, because Factions was great, and certainly let's take a shot at making a game based on one of our IPs, make it multiplayer. But I feel it would be so much better if it's like, just, you know, it's like Sony's up there whining about, we can't compete with Call of Duty, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, have you tried? It's like, if every game you guys greenlight, and I'm sorry to say this because I love this about Sony as a consumer, and I love it when I worked there, that there was a lot more creative freedom that you find at Sony than at a company, at least back in the day, like EA or whatever, and certainly at Microsoft. But there comes a point where if it's really about going, we need to swing for the fences and make sure some of these service games work, why are you picking ideas and or IP and or concepts that, you know, the fans love them, but they're not big mainstream fucking hits. And I don't think that Horizon, I'm sorry, I know a lot of you guys love Horizon, and that's great. I have yet to sort of have it work its magic on me, and it's not just because, oh, well, Jaffe, just because you don't like it, you know, it's that I look out, it's like I recognize that God of War, and the new God of War specifically, has really gone beyond the game fans. Like, one of my kids' friends who doesn't play games at all came over today, and she said, oh, I saw that God of War almost won Game of the Year. And I'm like, how do you even know what God of War is, right? Let alone Game of the Year. But the stuff like Death Stranding and the stuff like Horizon, and even certainly the stuff like Twisted Metal, unless they've seen footage of the game and they think, or the movie, and they're like, this is going to be big. You know, if you're trying to swing for the fences with these service-based games, why are you building them on the bones of these IP that have proven that they're kind of niche? And I hate to say that, because I'm not saying that Horizon wasn't a big hit, but is it really that big of a fucking hit I mean, I know among PlayStation fans, but it's not in the zeitgeist. It hasn't permeated culture. You're not seeing tons of people cosplaying Aloy. My theory is Herman Holst, who's running the whole thing, he has affection for it, and he runs PlayStation now, and so he's just like, oh yeah, let's do this. I know, Luca, I know you like it. Luca's a big fan of Horizon. There's a lot of people that are big fans of Horizon. I get that. I am not taking the piss out of this game. I am not shitting on this game. But what I'm saying is, in the same way that Killzone came out and it has its fans, it was never Halo. It was never Call of Duty. Horizon comes out. It's got its fans. But it lives in that world, at least I think, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but tell me if you guys agree more with me or with Luca. It lives in that world of like almost but not quite like Days Gone, which you know I loved, but no one's walking around cosplaying as Deacon. So Ghost Tsushima Gaming Philosophy says, would you say Ghost Tsushima was niche? I would say that one's on the razor's edge because I know it did well. I think they said it's over 10 million copies sold. For a brand new IP, that's pretty fucking good. But I think it's too early to sort of put a stamp on that one and say, is that going to be one of the big PlayStation IPs, or is that going to be one of those kind of also rans? And even Zendale says, just bring back Resistance. And my response to that would be, no, don't bring back Resistance. Resistance did not connect. It didn't connect. I'm sorry, but it just didn't. Now, you could argue, well, that was because it was on PS3. I'm not saying the game wasn't great. I was playing Resistance 3 the other night. Okay, I'm not taking the piss. I'm saying that I think if you're going to greenlight these games, then you base them off IP that are already just deeply seated within popular culture, not just video game one console owner culture. Like if you're a PlayStation fanboy, chances are you know Horizon. But most gamers probably haven't played Horizon. Tone says it sold 20 million plus sales. I know the first one did. I don't know how well. And the other one, it's hard to tell because it was bundled forever. And every time somebody bought a PS5, especially in Europe, you got a copy of this game. Look, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to take your fun away. I see people in the chat getting defensive. I'm not trying to say you're wrong for liking the game. I'm saying, imagine if you were sitting in Jim Ryan or Herman Holt's chair or whatever, and you were having to pick, okay, we're going to spend God knows how much money, you know, 200 million to launch, 120. I don't fucking know what he's spending on this. I don't know what the game is yet. They've just said that it's a multiplayer. You can explore the world with a friend. It's a different art style. But we're going to spend a lot of money on this. Would you really, if you're sitting in Holt's chair, would you go, oh, let's do it with Horizon? Or would you say either let's go out, like Gonzo is saying, and pay for a license, or better yet, let's make up something new that's more commercial than Horizon, and more mainstream, and let's stop. If it works, it gives us the opportunity to stop complaining about, you know, oh, we can't compete with Call of Duty. Darth Nugget says, thank you for being a member, buddy, for 19 months. He says, how many Apex Legends players do you think played either Titanfall, which probably sold a lot less? I'd guess less than 25%. Sure, I think you're absolutely right. And I loved the Titanfall games, and I especially loved the Titanfall 2 campaign mode. It was one of the best single-player FPS campaigns ever. Lucas says, Jaffe, I wish you'd properly tried the combat of Horizon. Again, I am not knocking Horizon. It didn't connect for me. I plan on going back to Forbidden West, but I found the characters in the story annoying as fuck. But I did like the combat. I fought some dinosaurs. I fought the first boss. I killed the first boss. I enjoyed it. It's not it's certainly one of the best produced games of last year. And it certainly is a loved game. I'm just talking at a pure executive level. Is this really where you want to put your money? I think they're overvaluing this license. I think if you're going to not make a Days Gone 2, you should look at this. Now, again, I don't have the data, right? So let's say if these guys can extrapolate the data of Horizon Forbidden West and go, we're able to determine that X% of Horizon Forbidden West sales can be attributed directly to the quality and the desire to play that game and not just the fact that it was bundled. And we can pull that data out and say that is a trajectory that says the second one is also going to do 20 or 30 million. Then I would say, okay, I'm wrong. But I don't, just from watching the industry as closely and as frequently and obsessively as I do, I don't see that. Okay. Eddie T says it feels like Sony's trying to force Aloy to be their Lara Croft the way she's featured in promotional material. Yeah, again, maybe I just don't get it. Yeah, Dano Genesis, I'm like you. He says Horizon looks amazing. It does, and the reviews agree. I just can't get with it. But again, this isn't me saying I don't like it. It's me saying, is this really where people want to spend their time in virtual worlds? Okay. Ionic Blood says Horizon Stories a snooze fest. I agree. And this is a good point here. Again, these are not facts. These are just people's opinions. Like Luca wouldn't agree with this, right? But Boat Knight says Aloy was a block of wood. She was a terrible character to hang a franchise on. Combat was dope and the world was cool. I agree 100%. I think Aloy is a terrible character, at least when you get to know her. Maybe she becomes beloved and wonderful later, but as she is, when I've experienced her, which is a little bit of the first game and a little bit of the second game, I think she's a terrible character. Luca, thank you, buddy. He's been a member for quite some time. Cult Calypso, 15 months. Thanks, man. You know, I appreciate it. He says, I think it's a slim chance you'll like Forbidden West if you haven't played Zero Dawn, at least the first 4 to 5 hours. I mean, that's okay. I mean, doesn't that tell you a lot? That it's like if you didn't play the first game, then you're not going to like the next game. But I mean, I've heard that, and I'm still going to give it some time, because I will tell you, Luca, the world and her ability to move through that world and navigate it in terms of like a parkour or like a sense of how she feels as a character is amazing. And the combat feels amazing. I'm not shitting on the game. I am shitting on the fact that I don't think it's not a crown jewel in Sony's IP cap. That's what I would say. Trey Trimble has put a chat in. He's been a member for 26 months. He's also created all of our amazing, beautiful, just insanely talented opening creations. He says Sony needs to lovingly bring back the past IPs that made PlayStation what it is. PS1 Classic was a slap in the face to us. Nintendo does it well. I don't know, man. I mean, I think so much of that is nostalgia goggles. Like, I see people saying bring back Ape Escape, right? Why? What is Ape Escape? I'm not saying don't make a similar game to it. But the IP didn't connect. I mean, certainly didn't connect at a level like Parappa did, and that even is a franchise that, unless you're making it on a mobile game, I think you have to. It's like I was an Atari kid. And I'm excited that, we're going to remake Haunted House for the Atari 50 collection, or we're going to remaster Yar's Revenge, remix it. It was great. But if I'm an executive, I'm not like, what the kids want to play these days? You know what we should invest $100 million in? A fucking multiplayer Yar's Revenge. What? So, I mean, I'm not saying Sony doesn't have some great brands in the past, but I would say if you strip nostalgia away, they get and every company's this way. It's not just Sony, but they become much less valuable. And I think you have to, given the cost of the games, you have to include more people than those that just grew up with the brand and say, is this still appealing if you just are seeing it for the first time today? I would argue that like Ape Escape is probably not, but that's just my take. Jaffe, do you think Sony needs a first-party JRPG? I don't think they need one. I'd rather see them just buy Square, but I don't think they're going to, but I'd love that. I don't think it could hurt. Whether it's a JRPG or not, I think if you look, and again, the proof will be in the pudding. Microsoft first party hasn't proven themselves, but you know, if you look at like, what do they have? They have Obsidian, they have In Exile, they have there's like 4-5 studios they have that have made RPGs. I'm sure they have fucking Bethesda. You know, I definitely think they need something. Absolutely. That competes in that world that's exclusive. But so far, they've been paying for it. Prince Green, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with any of those things you just wrote. He says IPs that can make it in 2022. Twisted Metal, Jet Moto, Motorstorm. They could make it, but not simply make. I mean, there's nothing about those that are like, oh my God, the world is waiting for a new Jet Moto. There are PlayStation fans that grew up with it that are, but same with Twisted Metal. I don't think many are. JW, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. He says, I'm curious to know how many people played Horizon for Aloy's story versus it's simply they like the world or combat. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you get that data. I mean, that's a question for every game, right? I mean, how many people are playing God of War Ragnarok to the end because the story versus the combat versus both? You could ask the same thing about, you know, Halo Infinite's campaign. I mean, what is it that motivates them, right? I have no idea. I'm sure that's data that, you know, maybe, again, can you imagine the kind of telemetry and data we'll get the better AI gets? Because then we'll be able to answer questions definitively like that. To figure out a way that the AI can determine why this person stopped or why this person kept going. I don't know how the AI would figure it out, but they're smarter than me, so I'll just use their smarts and they'll figure it out. It's their fucking job. Yeah, I mean, think about this, right? In 20 years, 25 years, even though people our age, most people watching this stream or whatever are going to be going, oh God, Fortnite. Ugh. I mean, I respect Fortnite. I like Fortnite for what it is, but a lot of people that are hardcore gamers shit on Fortnite. 20, 25 years when they announce the Fortnite movie, fuck. The fandom and the nostalgia of that is going to be through the fucking roof. It's going to be through the fucking roof, right? So, I mean, you know, it's definitely a powerful thing if you're talking about, you know, making future products and new games based on something that really had hit the zeitgeist. But okay, let's move forward. What's Fortnite? Fuck you. Ready Player One was the Fortnite movie. Kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, I didn't sell it that way, but yeah, and it didn't do that. It did better in China than it did over here. Yeah, Fortnite the game, the movie. Okay. Somebody was asking about Henry Cavill and Warhammer. I mean, look, I like Henry Cavill. I loved him in The Witcher. I didn't really go gaga for him as Superman, but Warhammer is a European thing that seems to really connect with Europeans and has never made any headway in America. It's possible that now with Henry Cavill jumping on, and I think they're doing it with Amazon, I think that maybe it will, but I would be a little nervous about Warhammer because there's been a lot of good Warhammer product that has come to America, and it still hasn't connected. So you have to kind of wonder, is there something inherent in the brand itself that just doesn't connect? Maybe it's because, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking. I don't have this data, but I wonder if it's because, like, if you look at Europe, you know, they've had lots of wars and they've had, you know, the World War II bombing. They're dealing with obviously Ukraine at the moment. You know, the idea of burnt out cities all across the continent. It's sort of baked into the culture, into the DNA, just like if you look at Japan and the atomic bomb has really given rise to not just Godzilla, but all kinds of sort of different types of manga and horror because it's built in to sort of their history. I think maybe in America, they just kind of go, it just looks like a straight up war thing. I have no idea. I have no idea. Lux says, as a European who was born during war, no. Okay, then explain to me why. Why do you think Warhammer is such a big IP in Europe? And I mean, Warhammer puts out like 6 games a year. What is behind its appeal? It's like Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is huge in the UK, or at least amongst geeks. I don't understand why Judge Dredd is bigger there than here. Modern Warfare 2 is having a free weekend on PS. Yeah, absolutely, Bill Bones. Bill Bones was saying, where did Bill Bones go? Changing subjects. Jaffe, do you think the member restricted content is stifling your growth? I've always been 5'6". I have a feeling I will always be 5'6" until I start shrinking. And then maybe I have already started shrinking. That's the goddamn truth. But I don't think there's any science to suggest that it's related. But that said, the member stuff on the channel, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have no way of knowing that stuff. Why do you think it's stifling my growth? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in real live chat. Okay, let's move forward, my little friends. I'm going to tell you something. This list of best games of the year, I love how they did it. I'm probably going to, as much as I know people love a good top 10, I love a good top 10. But I can't shake the fact that I have to practice what I preach when it comes to this. I find this incredibly disrespectful to say this is the #1 game of the year. Because games are so different. And so GameSpot puts out their list a couple days ago, GameSpot's 10 best games. They said, you know what? Excuse me, we're alphabetizing it. That's it. That's all you're going to get is alphabetized. We're not going to tell you which one's better because it's a ridiculous concept. These are the 10 best games of the year. And I think that's respectful to the art form and to the medium and to the people who build games. Because when you look at this list, and I don't agree with all the things on this list, but when you look at the list, to act like you could compare any of these meaningfully to say this is better versus just an individual's favorite, I think this is more respectful. Let me tell you what they put on their list in no particular order other than alphabetical. I know, Boat Knight, I agree. He says that's respectful, but come on, lists are like sports. They're fun. I know. But once you've seen behind the curtain and you know it's bullshit, it becomes hard to really engage in any kind of manner that doesn't just feel like you're a fraud, right? The only reason I would do a top 10 list this year is because I know people like it, but I also know that I know and you know that I think it's a stupid thing to do that doesn't respect the medium. I don't know which one's going to win out. But anyway, here's GameSpot did it what I think is the noble way. Here's what they said. Nathan says, no, Jaffe, we don't want participation trophy awards. I think people get that it's not objective. It's fun to pick the best game. Maybe if you stopped calling it the best game, if you called it, these are my favorite games. These are the games that, this is the game that most people that we asked said they thought was the best game or the most fun game. Sure. But when you say it's the best, I think that's where it just gets disrespectful to me. Because, okay, Elden Ring. Most people would tell you Elden Ring should be up here. I certainly would. It's one of my favorite games I've played this year. God of War Ragnarok. It's not my favorite out of all the God of Wars. I've so far enjoyed 2018 much more than this one, but certainly I'm in the minority and I get why this is up here. So they've got Ragnarok on here. Immortality I still haven't played, but I've seen it on enough lists and I've heard enough about it to go, yeah, all right, that feels fair. Rabid Sparks of Hope. It's good to see this on the list. I heard nothing but great things about this in every review that I looked at and everybody who's played it that I spoke with. And yet I haven't seen it on many actual Game of the Year award lists. I'm glad to see it on this one. And I will be playing this one. Marvel Snap is Denise Bees. I fucking love it. One of the best card games, definitely the best card game of the year. One of the best games of the year. I would agree with that. Neon White, great pick. I would agree with that. But think about it. You're going to say Neon White is a better game than Immortality, and Immortality is a worse game than Marvel Snap? Based on what? How if you were in college and you had to write a paper saying, explain to me why Neon White is better, and don't make it just subjective, because if subjective, it's not better. It's better for you. It's your favorite. They put Norco, which I still need to play. I hear great things on the list. Pentiment makes sense. Tunic, I didn't like it at all, but I know a lot of people love it, which is great. Vampire Survivors, of course, a lot of us have played it. I've played it. I love it. I get why that's on the list. So this is their Game of the Year list. Vampire Survivors, Tunic, Pentiment, Norco, Neon White, Marvel Snap, Mario Rabbids, Spark of Hope, Immortality, God of War Ragnarok, and Elden Ring. Makes sense. Makes good sense to me. Twisted Sis says, but wait, any list is going to be subjective. Yes, I know. But that's the problem. When you basically say best of, it best almost kills subjective when you're doing it in a, like I said, if you can't articulate why Elden Ring is better than God of War in a way that is somebody with above average intelligence would hear it and go, okay, that's smart. That makes sense. I get, because you're comparing apples to grapes at that point. You can't, if you said this is the best tasting chocolate, okay, you're still being subjective, but you at least are comparing the same things. But if you're saying this is the best hamburger and one of them's a hamburger and one of them's a slice of amazing pizza, they're just different. JW, thank you for the super chat. He says, at Half Glass Gaming, we do our end of the year articles saying X game is one of the best games of the year, and here's why, instead of ranking. Right. First off, thank you for the super chat. And I agree with that. Thank you you're absolutely right. That's how I would do it too. Super Wonderbat, you're missing the point. Every single list ever written is subjective. I understand that. I know that. I said that. Of course it's subjective. That's not the point. The point is that, in the same way that scientists don't call anything for the most part facts, they say, well, they do, but the idea that science is always open to change based on new evidence coming forward or new discoveries being created. There's an honesty to the way they use the language that suggests a respect for the work they do. When you use hyperbolic language, or not even hyperbolic, but best is hyperbolic, but when you say it's the best and you really can't articulate it in comparison to something that is comparable, it kind of devalues, in my opinion, their opinion, if that makes sense. Okay. Oh, shut you. Fuck you, Emmanuel. I know you're kidding. He says, both are games. Deal with it. Look, hey, I enjoyed Elden Ring more than God of War. The only thing right now that I'm debating whether my game that I loved the most this year, right now, I would say it would be between, and I'm probably going to leave some out, but I'd say people were asking my top 5. I got to put all this together. I did play Ragnarok enough. I did play Ragnarok. Twisted's like, but you didn't play Ragnarok. I played it for 4 or 5 hours. How much longer do I have to sit and play something that's not engaging me just to be able to have a conversation with you? I fucking created the goddamn thing in terms of the universe, or with a bunch of other people. I think I can speak to the fucking game. And if me stopping it after 4 or 5 hours doesn't tell you what I think of the game, well, then I don't know what will. I loved the production of it. It was brilliantly made. The audio is brilliant. The soundtrack is brilliant. The performance is brilliant. The controls are brilliant. I just so far haven't been engaged with it. I don't care though. I mean, do you understand what you're saying? It sounds like you have Stockholm syndrome. This guy in the chat, Ionic, says 4 or 5 hours is just the tutorial. LOL. If your fucking game goes 5 hours and you're still in the tutorial and you're willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, that's a you problem. That is a you problem. If the game can't be bothered to engage and entertain the fuck out of me in the first hour, the first 20 minutes, let alone the first 5 hours, and you're blaming me, you, my friend, have been bamboozled and hoodwinked, as Denzel says. Jaffe, that's not enough, says Prince Green. I put in 45 hours and I'm just halfway done. It's not a fucking job. I put in 45 hours. When you get to the Light Elves, that's still the very beginning. I don't care. I don't care. It's a ridiculous concept. Gamers are some of the fucking weirdest gatekeeping motherfucking people I've ever met in my goddamn life. You're the one that's being fucked. Here's what I'll tell you. If you played the first hour of Ragnarok and you said it was a tutorial, but you still were engaged and you loved it, then great. That's fantastic. But if you're using my comment that I got bored of the game and you're saying, oh, well, that's because the first 4 to 5 hours are boring, but it's a tutorial, don't fucking blame me for that. You can give an opinion, but you can't review it. Says, I can do whatever the fuck I want, Wonderbat. I'm tired of that shit too. I've been playing games longer than most of y'all been alive. I play more games than 95% of the people watching this fucking chat. I'm almost certain. Maybe 90, because we have some journalists in here and we have some super fucking hardcore gamers in here. But if I can't say, if what you're saying is this, I watched Game of Thrones. I watched the first 7 episodes. I stopped watching it. I didn't like it. Well, your opinion's not valid. Sure, it's valid. It's valid that suggests that after 7 hours of that fucking show, I couldn't watch anymore. Why is that not valid? It may not be valid if you want to invite me to a symposium to discuss the character arcs of the various, people who died in that series. Certainly you wouldn't want to invite me to that conversation because I don't have that data. But my review of I got so bored that I stopped watching or playing after 5 hours is just as valid as somebody who played the whole fucking game and loved it. So, no. Oh, shut up, Frank. Jaffe, it's so obvious you're salty over the accolades these new God of War games you get. No, it's not obvious. It's obvious only if you've never had any success in your life, Frank, and you think that to be part of something like God of War that is getting accolades, even if you don't enjoy doing the work to get those accolades, is worth it. I used to think that way. I absolutely used to think that way. But no, it has absolutely nothing to do with that. I raved about God of War 2018. I said it was phenomenal. Go look at my reviews. I had issues with it, but I said it was fucking phenomenal. One of my favorite games of the year. The idea that I can't criticize, I'm just sick of that narrative. Man, you're salty. No, I'm not. It's not becoming increasingly, okay, Frank says, I love you, Jaffe, but it's becoming increasingly clear. If it's becoming increasingly clear, explain to me why I raved about 2018's God of War. Explain to me why I am saying the combat in the new God of War is awesome. The effects are awesome. The art is awesome. The production is awesome. How is that salty? I just didn't like the game at a pacing level and it bored me. What's the problem? Hey, Gravedoll, thank you. Been a member for 17 months. I appreciate it. He says, Jaffe, your mom didn't gatekeep with the boys last night. She made us all cookies and then taught us how. Very inclusive. She's a corpse, man. If you're fucking that corpse and the corpse is making you cookies, I am impressed. Please, next time you see her, tell her I love her and I miss her a lot. Okay. I'm not going. Realski says, "Yo, Jaffe going off today." You know what? I need to really think about this because all week I've been going off, and people have said that in the chat, and I need to think about what that is because I'm a very happy guy. I'm a very optimistic guy, but it's not true that recently in the stream I've been I'm not angry, but I've been getting more combative. But I think what I'm just tired of is I'm tired of gamers who come into my world, in my chat, and it's not that they're not welcome as long as they're okay with us bantering back and forth, but I'm tired of being told what my behavior is born out of, especially given my history making and playing games, and especially given my history of going to therapy and knowing myself and being a pretty self-aware guy. I would argue perhaps that you're putting your own thoughts of how you would respond to something like God of War on me. Trust me, if I wanted to still be in the game industry in a meaningful way, I have no idea if I have the talent anymore to be in it in a meaningful way, but I would be fucking knocking at that door trying. But people have a hard time believing that, and I'm just really getting sick and tired of fucking dealing with it. I guess you can't have an opinion nowadays. You can have an opinion, but you can express it in a way that is kind and not obnoxious. This is good conversation. I like Jaffe interacts with non-members of the chats. No, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm just more, and it's not just on this chat. It's just in games in general. It's just, and maybe it's any fandom. Maybe it's sports. Maybe it's music. It's just, everybody's so bitchy and catty and your thing's wrong. Your thing's right. Your thing's wrong. It's gross. I'm tired of it. Well, I agree with that, Wayne. Wayne 1988 says only my opinion matters. He's right. Swag Base says, I think it's that people trying to force you to like what they like. I respect that you can articulate what you liked about a game and you didn't enough to finish, and it's fine if you don't agree. I thank you for that. I appreciate that, Swag Based Overlord. It's nice to say, it's nice to hear someone say that it's like, yeah, I can have a nuanced conversation. Not even this is nuance. We're not arguing particle physics, but I can have a semi-nuanced conversation with you, Jaffe, and I hear what you say, and I get it's connecting when you say I like this, but I don't like this about it. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. John A says he did finish 2018. Yeah, I do finish games. I probably finish people, but somebody in the earlier of the chat said, well, maybe you don't finish games, Jaffe. Maybe it's you, not the games. I do finish games, but I can articulate why I stuck with it. I loved Evil West until I got bored of it because it was the same thing over and over and over. I loved Elden Ring, and I've stuck with it even though I haven't beat it. I have like over 160 hours in that game because it continues to engage my brain. Hello, Jojo D. Marvel Snap. I'm starting to lose interest in Marvel Snap, even though you can't really finish it. But so far, I've loved it. This idea that there's some nobility in sticking with something when you lose interest, I think is sort of born out of a bizarre sort of training that a lot of people in the West have had that's really given to you by your corporate masters. Like, don't quit, even if it's hard, even if you don't like it. That's how you get successful. In some cases, that's true. Not all cases. Okay. Super Wonder Bat, thank you for the New Zealand ducats. I appreciate that, pal. He says, the hilarious part of people not accepting other people's opinions, as that most of their opinions just come from what YouTubers say to begin with. I kind of agree. Not entirely, but I get your point and I get your money. I appreciate your super chat, buddy. Thank you for that. But yeah, Super Wonder Bat. I mean, it's a very good point, actually, is that a lot of people, if you actually pin them down and say, well, we'll talk about that, articulate that. What's the problem? They don't want to give you an answer. They can't give you an answer, I have to assume. If you remove that annoying kid from God of War Ragnarok, the game would be way better, says Wayne. I don't agree with that. I actually like Atreus more in this game than the last one. Prince Green says it's born out of the fact that people paid for the game, so they feel the need to finish it. But you're right. You don't have to finish a game to enjoy it, right? It's a ridiculous concept. Thank you, sir. The internet, says Tones, has ruined how a lot of people communicate with each other. Rarely can they have logical, respectful discussions like you would face to face. I guess. I wonder, Tones, has that affected their ability to converse in real life? So when they do go out, is it just a normal thing that they shift into, okay, I know I'm in real life, I can have a conversation? Or is it just they've been trained that they can't even do it in real life? I don't know. And I'm with you on that. We'll move on, but I'm with you on that, Nathan. Nathan says there's too much content out there to spend even 1 minute longer in a game, book, movie that you're not having a blast with. Absolutely true. Absolutely fucking true. Okay. Let's move forward. Let's talk about, see this? You had to have seen it. Maybe you saw it. I don't know. Today, Congress wrote a letter to 15 video game publisher heads. They were all Democrats who wrote the letter. And we talked about this. The letter was published last night on Axios, but the letter got sent today. We talked about this a couple days ago about the Anti-Defamation League saying hate speech, specifically anti-Semitic hate speech and anti-Muslim hate speech and misogyny, is higher this year than last year, and it's an upward trend, blah, blah, blah. So they send a letter to a bunch of game companies, Square, Take-Two, Sony, Ubisoft, Nintendo wasn't included. Riot Games was. I don't see Microsoft on here, but I'm sure they were included at some point. The lawmakers asked companies what data they collect on in-game player reporting mechanisms and automatic bans for inappropriate behavior, and whether they would consider releasing that data in regular transparency reporting. They also asked the companies how they identify extremist content in their games and whether they have policies to address it. We are writing, they say, to better understand the processes you have in place to handle reports of harassment. Authorities around the world, like the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and European Union's Radicalization Awareness Network, are taking notice and launching investigations into how extremists use online gaming spaces to radicalize young players. The letter is not a subpoena, but Representative Lori Trahan, who is a Massachusetts Democrat, says parents like me with young kids are going to be paying attention to how they respond. My response to this is go fuck yourself. Not because their hearts are not in the right place, but because, if you listen to responses already to the ADL report from games, which they gave, or if you listen to Epic Games, that I do believe was on this list, responding to the lawsuit in Canada that has been allowed to continue this week, where 3 parents filed a class action lawsuit and was like, well, you know, kids will play Fortnite and they'll spend money and we don't know they're spending it and this and that and the other. And Epic wrote back and said, well, we have reporting on that parents have access to. Reports can go out as often as, if not once a week, not once a day, once a week. You can limit it so kids cannot spend money unless they get parental approval. There's all of these things that are in there already, right? If you play Call of Duty, like I play Call of Duty a lot lately in multiplayer, I don't even think about it. I automatically mute everybody, and the people I want to talk to are in the Discord. There are a lot of things that can be done already. And the fact, again, it's not that I don't agree with where their heart is. Of course, I'm opposed to, I don't think hate speech should be illegal, but I'm opposed to hate speech, opposed to assholes. I support companies saying, let's use all of our tools, including, you know, I saw recently Activision is trying to do more with AI to get rid of, you know, assholes online and toxic behavior online. I'm a huge fan of all of it. But when the government comes in, even though they're not demanding it, which would be illegal, and acting like, hey, we reckon we're going to be watching closely. The European Union's going to be watching. We're taking notice. We're launching investigations. First off, fuck you. Second off, you know good and goddamn well that you are not, in America at least, going to be able, it doesn't matter if the Senate brings every fucking video game executive in front of them. You're not going to be able to regulate this. The Supreme Court's already said that video games are protected under First Amendment. You're not going to be able to go in and make those changes unless you suddenly make hate speech illegal, which you're not going to get to do in America either. So it's not a good, in my opinion, look for the government, especially a government that right now that can barely function well enough to keep the goddamn lights on. It's like, you know what? Yes, radicalization's a real problem, but maybe you could solve it. Maybe you could solve it by looking to where the birth of the radicalization even comes from, which is a lot of inequity in the country, a lot of people, not the least of which are the politicians, that have a lot of power and a lot of riches and they're not willing to fucking share. How about the fact that you guys basically have amazing health insurance, but you continually make sure that it's difficult for the rest of us to have amazing health insurance unless we're rich? That would go a long way into getting people to stop hating each other. But no, let's kind of try to stiff arm the video game companies. You fucking morons. Fucking morons. But again, I agree with the end goal of people need to be nicer to each other and not be dicks and not be anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim and anti-LGBT 100%. Go fuck yourself, though, with this solution. Combat Carl says the government's been pointing the finger at video games since the 90s, nothing new. Yeah, and nothing ever gets done. The only thing that really got done from those hearings was that, games were brought up in front of the Supreme Court. And if I remember correctly, the Supreme Court, as one of the arguments, one of the lawyers used God of War. And one of the Supreme Court justices referenced God of War as saying this is a game that's basically a retelling of the Odyssey. I mean, it wasn't, but to an extent it was. How can you ask us to say that this isn't protected just like that would be protected or that is protected here? So I think if they push through, they're just going to get slapped down again. But it would be nice if they actually, it would be nice if they actually kind of said, you know what, let's figure out where the hate's coming from, the division's coming from. Let's work with that instead. But yeah, right. So yeah, Mr. K says I'm in the car having just walked out of the dentist office, and he has thousands of dollars of dental work he needs urgently, but he can't currently afford it. Yeah, let's do that. He says there's zero government assistance for dental work. Let's fucking do that. That would help. That would help people not be so, whatever. You know my point. Just pisses me off. Gerard just says brush your teeth. Yeah, that's true. I don't know who Razor Fist is, lives in Wonderland. He says he'd like to see me talk to Razor Fist. If he wants to talk to me, I don't know. Are they good people? I don't know who they are. Sector says, Jaffe, I moved from Canada back to the US last month. Did I make a mistake? I don't know. It depends on the reason you moved, I suppose. Listen to this. Callisto Protocol. I'm this close to pulling the trigger on this game now because I've had a number of people in this chat say, Jaffe, Callisto Protocol is absolutely worth your time. Fuck the reviews, blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to fuck the reviews because I have read a lot of the reviews and I've seen some consistent problems. But I still want I want to try it. $70 seems kind of steep to try a game that probably doesn't feel worth $70. But the thing is, though, they just released a patch today, and a lot of the patch was bugs, but there's a new update that just came out today, and this has gotten me a little bit closer to pulling the trigger. So here's the changes. This is what came from Callisto Protocol developer first, Striking Distance. Look for combat improvements, performance and stability fixes, localization optimizations, general quality of life changes. We're listening and grateful for your feedback, right? But then the community has been playing it, and they're saying, here are some changes that are specific. You can now skip death animations. That I think that was one of the things that was keeping me away from buying this game, because it's like the last thing I want to do is when I fuck up, have to sit there and watch the death animation over and over and over again. So that you can skip now. There are new kill animations added. I don't really care. Weapon and healing speeds have been increased. And I've heard that's one of the complaints too, which is combat feels good, but it's a little too slow. It's a little too clunky, right? This, if you've played it, and I don't have a basis of comparison, but this is sort of somebody put up on Reddit the difference now, right? So at the top is the old when you inject yourself with the healing. This is kind of the speed as it was when it shipped. And then at the bottom, this is the new speed, right? Now, for those of you who've played it, I don't know how meaningful that will be, but apparently some of that speed update applies to weapons as well, combat as well. So, you know, just letting you know, if you're considering it, maybe it's time to pull the trigger. I'm certainly inches away from doing it because of this announcement and what people in the chat have been saying. Sector says, if Callisto isn't announced on Game Pass by E3, I'll sub for 2 years. I say, wait, don't spend. Who knows? By then things might be better. My guess is you're going to see Dead Space on Game Pass first because EA Play is free on Game Pass. You'll probably get the 10-day trial. I wonder if they're going to do that with this one. Since it's not a service-based game, I wonder if they're going to do Dead Space Remake 10-day trial on Game Pass Ultimate and EA Play Plus or whatever they call it. Am I looking forward to Atomic Heart? I've heard about it. People say it looks great. I'll play it, but I haven't really been tracking it enough to really know. Little TT says, Sony's studios better wake up before it's too late, and it won't be as funny once they will be $3 billion in debt because they've been lazy since 2009 and put zero effort into their games. Come on, you know that's not true. Sony puts a huge amount of effort into their games. And they make some of the best games in that genre in the world. But, you know, but that said, you know, everything they make isn't the bee's knees to everyone. Combat Carl says the Need for Speed Unbound 10-hour trial got me hooked and I bought it. Talking about EA Play. I played it for about an hour and a half and I deleted it and it made me not buy it, but I was grateful they had it. Right. DA says new EA games are not necessarily day one on Game Pass. No, but I did think that if you have EA Play, new games are 10 hours. And EA Play free comes with Game Pass Ultimate, so I'm not entirely sure. Sam Dunham has played Callisto. He says the health injector and reload speed will be a huge deal. As shipped, they were useless while in combat. And I think the goal of it, if I remember hearing Glenn Schofield talk, was to make it so that you really needed to retreat from combat and really take your shots. But it may have just been so difficult or so slowly tuned that it resulted in less of these tense oh shit moments where you just healed in time and more of these frustration moments. Legend says little TT is so wrong. He may be. I mean, I don't fucking know. I can tell you there's some Sony games that are my favorite games of all time that have come out in the last 5-6 years first party, and there are some that just don't vibe with me. Did you see Hideo Kojima's studio tour? If so, I haven't. I'll watch it and I'll talk about it later next week in the show. Fuby says hate speech not being illegal is one of the many reasons why we European intellectuals find the U.S. primitive. It's a dumb statement, Fuby, what you're saying, but it's not entirely dumb. Like, only a moron, I'm not going to get, this relates to games, I promise, but only a moron would look at the UK and the European Union and say that, and same thing with China, by the way. People as we are now at our evolved state, we're not evolved enough to handle the level of freedom that we get in America. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have it, but countries like China and countries that exist within the European Union that do put a little bit more restrictions up, do tend to have better results. Whether you're talking about gun violence, whether you're talking about even what's happening now, the European Union's about to pass, or they've already passed bits of this customer first group of laws for technology, which is causing iPhone to no longer use their stupid fucking, we don't want to have a phone jack, right? You have to use the same kind of plug now. That's going to cause all over the world everyone to get it because the European Union was able to sort of say, hey, We agree with the free market, but this is ridiculous. The consumer has to have some protection, right? There's a bunch of things in that. Loot boxes is another one that affect gamers and affect technology fans. So I don't disagree, Fupy, that the proof in the pudding that when you limit the amount of pure freedom that we have in America does result in a higher quality of life. I think that's true, but I think there's a loss of quality of life that's hard to calculate because you've got someone taking that level of freedom away. And I think in America, for whatever reason, for good or bad, the thought is that it's worth it. I don't think that makes the United States primitive unless you can articulate that Europe has been through this a long time ago and we arrived at our current politics because of XYZ. But I don't think you can. I just think that's sort of the way your country evolved. And not your country, but a number of countries over there evolved. But I don't think it's primitive. I think it's a different philosophy. But I hate to say it, but I agree that I think we have too much freedom in America given how unevolved we are. That's the goddamn truth. He says, you think some common sense and decency should be mandatory, isn't necessary given, I don't understand what that means. I think it's primitive because you're on a trajectory towards the Idiocracy movie. Oh yeah, 100%. We absolutely fucking are. Then again, you guys actually care about the royal family. But that said, though, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. Decency can be enforced. I'm sorry, Frank Kent. It can be enforced. If you put someone in jail or you find someone for hate speech, which is really goes against a lot of American mentality. If you put restrictions up that make a company not as easily be able to divide people and make them angry in order to make money, you can. But that goes against a lot of sort of free market mentality in America. So, you know. Okay, let's stay with games for now, though. Stay with games for now. I'll talk about this later. You know I love talking about this stuff, but people showed up for games, you know. What's the story? What do we got next, fellas? And Filetti's. Hey, listen to this. You PlayStation fans or obsessed fans will like this. Study claims the PlayStation 5 is the most in-demand Christmas gift this year. This is one of those weird ones that they base it on. This is from an online retailer, Rakuten. They base this on Google Trends to search which items are the most searched for in each state in the United States during the Christmas period. Okay, so PlayStation 5 took the top spot. Most searched for item in 13 states. I'll get to that, Zeke, in a second. Including Louisiana, Texas, Florida, and Utah. Second highest was the Switch, which is surprising, but that's 10 states. It's only surprising because, my God, it's been out forever. People still want it. iPad was number 3. The X was number 5. It doesn't say what 4 was. And that was only in 5 states, the top search for items. They posit, is that the right word? Game Rant suggests that one of the reasons the PlayStation 5 is in such high demand could be the amount of PlayStation exclusives seen as better than Xbox exclusives. With big titles like Horizon, God of War, Last of Us, and Marvel Spidey, it makes sense customers would want to get their hands on PS5 in order to play these games. And I think that's absolutely true. What I really think sucks for Microsoft is, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but I am on the internet a lot, so you'd think it would be there as well. I don't think they've done a very good job explaining outside of the core gamer the value that is Game Pass. I just don't think people genuinely that aren't, you know, watching streams like this or reading IGN or whatever, I don't think they get it. I think they could do a much better job blowing people's minds, especially gift buyer people's minds, if they said, oh shit. Like I just saw this new ad campaign they're running with forget what the guy's name is, really funny dude. He's sitting on a couch, his PlayStation comes to life, and they're focusing on, hey, if you buy a PlayStation Series X, you get this gilded package that gives you cosmetics for Fortnite and Rocket League and all this. And I'm not saying don't focus on that, but how would you not be showing off the big stuff? Look at all this shit you get on Game Pass. Forget that it's not first party. Who gives a shit right now? But anyway, whatever. I love you too, Eric. You're my best friend. I want to go to the sock hop with you. Okay. Jaffe, talk about anything you want. We hear your opinion on things. I know, but I like to at least put the first part of the show on games. It's just kind of what I promised, and it's kind of the name. Zeke says, too much freedom. Jaffe, if you need a babysitter, hire one. Zeke, that's not the point. Maybe that's why someone like Fupy and his ilk look at folks and say, maybe people in America aren't super fucking bright and they're headed towards, idiocracy. It's not about that, right? It's not that it's like, I need a babysitter and I want everyone to have a babysitter, right? It's not that. It's the fact that the level of freedom that we have with the lack of mental evolution that we have, some of that coming from the lack of good quality public education, which is intentional on the part of the powers that be on both parties' side for the most part, in my opinion, creates a population that basically is easily manipulated. And so the people who are really benefiting from all that freedom are the Fox Newses, the CNNs, the Elon Musks, the MSNBCs of the world, the Republicans and the Democrats, who basically count on us being disengaged and more interested in talking about trivial bullshit all the time. Sometimes trivial bullshit's important, but all the time versus genuinely sitting down and going, well, wait a minute. For example, is all socialism bad? Is all capitalism good? Is Donald Trump the worst president ever? Probably, but did he also have some policies that probably benefited a lot of other people in America? Probably. That level of nuanced thought is missing from most of American discourse now because the amount of freedom that exists for corporations to pretty much do whatever they want because they control the politicians has created a population of stupid fucking idiots. So I understand where your point is coming from, which is I don't want your fears to to pin me into a mentality that I can't explore what I want to explore. I get that. But what I'm saying is that's not the biggest that's not the most damage that will come from this. The most damage is what we're seeing already right now in America. Jojo D, hey buddy, 26 months, Cult Calypso, and he made me a great trailer today for a holiday card. I can't wait to put it out. Thank you, buddy. He says, hi, Jaffe. Christmas is New Year's is approaching fast. Is Gavin and Games planning anything special? Should we get excited? You should always be excited. What I said at the top of the stream, we're doing a Christmas special probably on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve early afternoon. I'm not sure yet. And we will be doing at least a couple of Christmas horror movies next week. And then, of course, we'll be doing a New Year's Eve thing because I never go out for New Year's Eve anymore. And I always do the stream and I'm looking forward to it. So, yes, we do the holidays right here at Gavin and Games. And hopefully for all or some of those activities, you guys will join us. I would appreciate it. Okay. Mr. K says freedom for corporations has nothing to do with the social freedoms we value. It has everything to do with the social freedoms you value, because what you are trained to value comes from the media and it comes from the schools that get their money mostly, if you're talking public schools, from the government. And the government is controlled mostly by the lobbyists that are controlled by the corporations. So if you think standing there on the 4th of July and tears running down your face and saying you love the freedom you get in America is not, I'm not saying you don't, and I'm not saying there's not a lot to love and hate about this country, but the idea that your mindset, if you live in America, is not meaningfully impacted by the corporations that want you to be trained to think a certain way, you're a fucking moron, is what I would say. But you can be unmoronized. Just watch Gavin and Games. You'll be fine. Okay. What am I doing for Christmas? Just spending it with the family. Okay, let's move forward. Let's talk about the Game Awards briefly. Let's talk about it briefly. That's right, RPG. Gavin and Games, the solution to fake news. Dream Corridor says, Jaffe, a few points away from spurting out some Kanye West talking points. Fuck you, Dream Corridor. Yes, we're playing Call of Duty a little bit. I don't agree with anything Kanye West says for the most part. But I'm sorry if look. I mean, look what's happening with simply just the European Union's technology packet of laws that is starting to pass and starting to go into effect. Video game companies and tech companies are having to adjust. And it's better for consumers. Do you think the art of debate, says Tones, is dying? People seem to pick their side and dig their heels in. Well, debate's a weird verb, Tones, because debate implies a battle where one person needs to win. I think the art of genuinely listening and hoping to educate and grow and expand one's mind is dying. Yes, I do. At least here in America. Fuck you, Eric. He says, I always come away smarter after watching this show, specifically after watching Jaffe trying video game user interface. I walk away feeling like Einstein. You're going to hell, and I can't wait to hear your screams from down below. Okay. Why can't Bill Clinton be a Jew? Anybody can be a Jew if they convert and go through the process. Okay. Game Awards. 103 million is the number. The Game Awards have quietly become, this from Forbes, the most single-watch game award show in general in the world over the past few years. Think about that. While yes, part of this is a global interest in video games expanding and the work creator and host Jeff Keighley has put into cultivating the show's presence, reputation, and importance, it's also how it's embraced modern tech in a way other shows haven't. Partially, I agree. It was announced Game Awards shattered its previous viewership records with 103 million total viewers across YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Steam, Facebook, TikTok Live, Instagram, and of course, Gavin and Games. That's up 20% from last year. So these guys in less than 10 years have grown from 1.9 million in 2014. In 2018, it was 26 million. Last year, it was 85 million. This year, it's 103 million. Doug says viewers could mean they clicked and watched for 1 second. I don't think you have that data. I think if you're taking data from like back in the day, Nielsen, they had a very specific criteria for what it meant to say this is getting a viewer, right? I would have to imagine this is similar, but here's what I would say is even if it's 50% of that, right? Even if it's only 50 million watched it and engaged with it, right? The Oscars last year was only 16.6 million last year, and it was up from 10 million before. So even if it's half of what they're claiming, which I don't think it is, that's fucking impressive. But I think it's important to sort of really get in there and understand why. Is it the fact that, I mean, here's the challenging part. Should the Oscars be streaming? Yeah, it would be great. But the Oscars get paid a lot of money every year or multiple years in a contract from ABC. I think it's ABC still, to broadcast that show. And so they're like, I'm not going to fucking stream it to YouTube or this or that or the other. We don't make any fucking money, which I don't really understand, because they're still making money off their ads. If they just stream their feed with ads, you would think that even if you can watch it for free on YouTube, it would still be with ads, and they'd still. So I don't know why they don't. There must be a reason, but I have no idea what it is. But the other thing that I think Keighley has brought, that I think, and you guys know I think award shows based on creativity are stupid, but what I will say is the thing that, you know, to me the best award show would be like GameSpot's top 10 of the year mixed with Keighley's show, because saying this is the best, but we already had that conversation, right? But the bigger point though is that what he does is he does the trailers, right? And that's why most people tune into the show. And so if the Oscars started saying, okay, we're going to pull our heads out of our ass and stop acting like we are, you know, the tastemakers and it's not the 70s anymore. It's not the 80s. People don't look up to actors anymore in Hollywood and say, oh, your life is so much better than mine. You're like living gods of Olympus. Come down to share your gifts with us. That's over. For better and worse, and mostly better, that's over, right? And so if they would just sort of open themselves up to going, let's put some better categories in that are just more commercial, like Sony's awards for games, best new character. I don't mean make it the MTV awards, still have your very important like best art direction and all that shit, but have things that people actually care about. You know, the movie that people went back and saw more than once. I don't fucking know. The movie that the most popular movie. It's not just some arty farty movie no one's heard of, but also make that the time, not the Super Bowl, make that the time that if you tune into the Oscars, you're going to see a trailer for all the biggest, best new movies coming in the next 18 months. You're going to get movie announcements. You're going to get other things that celebrate your love of the movies. That's what Keighley's done with the Game Awards that I think are absolutely a key reason. Because if you ask most people, why do you watch the Game Awards? At least in the top 3 reasons, if not the top, people will say for the announcements, the trailers. It's not a joke. Stonerface is saying only boomers think that way towards celebrities. And then Dream Corridor says, is that a joke? Gen Z lose their minds for celebrities. The difference is, though, is that the Gen Z celebrities, at least they suggest that they're more genuine, because it's like, oh, I'm in my house, I'm in my car going to McDonald's. It's YouTube celebrities, right? But I would just say that I think there's a lot that the Oscars and there's a lot that the Grammys, if they want, could take from the way Keighley runs his show. And Forbes is focusing more on the tech and the streaming, but I think a lot of it is more the content. I mean, if you watch the Oscars, I'm a huge movie buff, and I'm just kind of like, what the fuck? I don't think I've sat through an entire Oscar since I was in college. It's just boring. It's just fucking boring. Frank Kent says they should have shown Phil every time a PS game won. Well, no, but if you look, how far until you're able to just pick what camera you want to watch, right? So it's like, hey, if you're streaming the show or just watching it by yourself, I'm going to go to the Phil cam for my audience watching every time somebody wins an award that's not Xbox. Let's see what, come on, man, you can do a lot of cool shit these days. And instead it's this old fucking old school bullshit. I don't like it. I hope they fix it. Okay. Here's what's going on. I want to give you guys some heads up real quick. If you don't come back to the stream until after the new year, I'll miss you, but thank you for hanging out with me. But I want to tell you some things. Don't forget that a couple things are happening right now. The Epic Games Store latest free title is Horizon Chase Turbo, which is an awesome video game. Yesterday they gave away, and I don't know if once it's given away in a day they close it or you get it all through Christmas, but they're giving games away up until when does this stop? It ends. So this one goes away tomorrow, December 17th. So you only get one day. It's a great fucking retro arcade game. It's new. And up until the 29th, they're giving away a free game. And if you know, the games do vary in scope and scale. They're always decent games. They're not like, oh, we're going to give away some piece of shit. But absolutely check this out. This is happening right now if you have a PC over on the Epic's Game Store. Then the Steam sale happens on the 22nd. Now, back in the day, that sale used to be crazy. Those days are over. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I remember I was sitting in a voiceover recording session for Twisted Metal 2012. And I didn't PC game back then. So I knew what Steam was. I had bought a few games on Steam at my work computer, but that was kind of it. And we're recording, and suddenly two of the guys that were the engineers were like, okay, we have to stop now. And we're all like, what? And they're like, the Steam sale's about to go live. I'm like, so? And they're like, well, sometimes they have these flash sales right at the beginning that only might last for 30 minutes, right? I'm like, okay, whatever. And we broke for lunch, but I watched these guys go to the Steam sale. And the deals back then were just bad. I mean, it's a game that's normal $45. It's like you can get for $2.99. It was like, what the fuck is happening? It's no longer that insane, but it's still pretty fucking good. So that's coming up on the 22nd if you have a PC. There's a big Sony online PSN sale happening as well. So, you know, it's happening all over the place. Andreas, yes, hook me up. I would love to play an AR game. Absolutely. I'm very interested. Thank you, sir. I also want to let you know, let me see, what else do I got before we, well, you know, hang on. Let me see this real quick. Okay. That story I keep meaning to get to and I never do. Okay. All right. So where did that go? Okay. Let me, oh, there we go. All right. So that's going to do it for this show for today. I will probably be streaming our practice session with me and Rob and Spaz, and we'll be figuring out who the other Call of Duty players are. This will be Monday. There may or may not be a stream Monday, but there will be a stream of us going head to head with Last Stand Media, led by Dustin Furman. First to 10 wins in any random mode of deathmatch, team deathmatch, confirmed kill or domination. So I'll be streaming that today. And then next week, because there's not going to be a lot of news, in the next week, because there probably won't be a lot of news, I will still be streaming often, but it'll be more of the new show called I Love the Weird. And that's going to be more like we'll go over the Pornhub list of 2022 trends. We'll go over, I'll tell you what I got lined up for that, just high level, just so you get an idea what kind of stuff. So you'll know if it says Gabbin' and Games, there's enough game news for the day. If it's not Gabbin' and Games, it'll be called I Love the Weird. And that will be where we talk about things like the Pornhub stuff. Apparently there's new research coming out about what near-death experiences are. And science is kind of going, maybe something is happening when we die that's not just the brain shuts off. It's really interesting. We'll talk about some really creepy, disgusting world records. We'll talk about a robot plan in the United States that let robots kill suspects, police robots. There's a lot of good stuff like that. So we'll be talking about all that shit. But for now, that's Gabbin' and Games. I'll be back in about 20 minutes streaming some Call of Duty. Jaffe, can you upload members only streams after they get old to the regular channel? Prince Green, I could, but would anybody really want to watch a stream from 2 weeks ago about news that's already old? But if people are interested, sure. I did see that the largest freestanding aquarium collapsed. I forget where that was. It was somewhere in Germany, and it just spilled all over all the fish came out on the streets and all this shit. No, you assume near-death experiences are like dreams. That's not what they're saying now. Okay, fellas, for now, though, I'm out. I'll see you guys maybe later today practicing some Call of Duty. If not, I'll see you next week. And if not, have a great holiday. Have a great Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, agnostic holiday like me, whatever you do. And be well, and thank you guys. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.